In this lesson, we are going to stop, stretch, reverse, and remap time. And there are three basic ways to do that in After Effects. We're going to look at two of those ways. So let's start off by going to Working Files, After Effects Projects, and open up 1306 Time. We are going to adjust the playback of this watermelon harvest clip to speed it up and slow it down and stop it and reverse it. And as I mentioned, there are three ways to do that. One you access through the column headers here or through the layer. Another one you access through the layer by adding a property to the layer. And the third one is an effect. And the effect is the one we're going to take a pass on. I'll show you the effect. It's called Time Warp. Time Warp. There it is. And drag that on down to the clip and take a look at what we have here. It is a massive effect. And it works best when you use something called a pre-comp. It's just kind of a complex thing that goes beyond the scope of this course. If you want to check it out, be my guest. I'm going to delete it now. We're going to focus on the other two methods, which are the ones that are most commonly used and are pretty intuitive as things go. So the first one's called time stretch, and you access time stretch either through one of these column headers or inside the layer menu. If you right-click on this thing, you can go to time, then you see time stretch. That's one way to get there. Or you click on the layer to make it active, and you go layer, time that way. There you go. Or the third way is to open up a column here called the stretch column. Now, if I right-click on this and say columns and click on stretch, that'll add the stretch column there with that number there. Another way to do this is to click this little double parentheses there and opens up all four of these guys, with stretch being the only one you're interested in. So those guys kind of get in the way. So I'm going to click on this to close that and go back here and just right-click and say stretch. Now, an unusual thing about seeing this is that when you see a number like that, you think you can click on it, and then it'll turn into one of those blue numbers that you can then type in the number you want. It doesn't work the way. If you click on this, it opens up the time stretch dialog box, which is really what you want to do, but it is a little weird. It's kind of a disconnect when you click on it, because you're used to doing something like this. You go to transform, for example, you open up, let's say, one of these guys, you click on it, then you get that blue highlighted text, and you can type something in. It doesn't work that way for time stretch. The other way you can do this, if you right-click on this guy and go to time stretch, you get the exact same dialog box. All right, well, there is that blue highlighted number now, and you want to change the stretch factors to something other than 100. Now, if you make it a larger number, that makes the clip longer. When the clip is longer, it plays slower. The action inside it goes more slowly. That's kind of the thinking that you need to realize here. The longer the clip, the slower the clip. The shorter it is, the faster it is. And typically when you use time stretch, you want to have stretch factors that are divisible into 100 evenly or multiples of 100. So you want to use something like 10, 25, or 50 when you want to speed things up, or you want to use something like 200, 300, 400, something when you want to do slow motion. So let's do 200 here. We'll make it twice as long, and notice now the clip is 41:16 instead of what it was before, which was 20:23. So go back to 200 now. It'll be now twice as long. And we'll hold it in place here at the end point. We'll click OK, and now watch the clip. It's going to jump out there to be twice as long. And now if I go through here, I'm going to not really be able to do it properly in the proper speed unless I ram preview, but I think you get a sense that obviously it's going more slowly. But you might notice that it's kind of stuttering just a little bit. And that's because the magic here is not all that magical. All we're doing is duplicating frames. So it takes one frame, and because we've made it twice as long, it just duplicates a frame, puts it next to it. So it's the original frame, duplicate, original frame, duplicate. If I press the page down key here, you'll see that it worked. One page down will be the frame, and the next one will be the duplicate. So here's the frame, duplicate, frame, duplicate, frame, duplicate. Which, you know, if people are watching your video closely, they're going to notice that it is kind of stuttering, especially if you go to something like 400%, where it's one frame and 3 duplicates. It gets really kind of crowded that way. So the way you overcome this is by using what's called frame blending. If you go back over here to the switches area, you'll see this one guy here called frame blend. If you click on it, you've got two choices. You got that little dotted thing, or you got this solid line. The dotted thing is what's called mix blending. What it does is it creates a cross fade between those clips to kind of try to make it look like it's smoothing out and like it's an additional frame. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to activate it so that you can actually preview it by turning that on. Did you notice something kind of odd that happened? Maybe not, but if you look up there, suddenly one watermelon is 2. Over here, one watermelon is 2. That's that little crossfade thing that's going on. I'll zoom in on a bit by going Control or Command plus a bit. And there we have 2 watermelons suddenly, and this guy's face is kind of contorted because that's the cross-dissolved version. If I page up, it's sharp. Page down, it's that cross dissolve. Page down again, we're back to being sharp. It's going to be a little dull now depending on where we are in the motion. Suddenly he's juggling 2 watermelons at once. No, it's 1 watermelon. Oh my gosh. So that is how the mixed version works, which, if it has some action like this with some sharp edges to it, doesn't necessarily work that well. But if you have soft things like clouds or what have you, then it works perfectly well. Let's switch over to something else. Let's switch over to the next version with a solid line. The solid line is called pixel motion. And what's going on here is that After Effects is looking for anything that's moving and just having that thing create the intermediary frames, which is pretty clever, but sometimes has little anomalies. But I'm going to go page up a little bit here, page down. Notice what happens around the watermelon. The area around the watermelon gets kind of warped. See that? Little bits of warping going on. Look at his fingers. What happened there, poor guy? So yeah, it has its own little problems too. So frame blending does resolve that sort of stuttery business because you're just duplicating frames. But then it throws in these little artifacts like warping and little odds and ends like that. But if you play it in real time, people may not notice these finer details, but that is how the whole time stretch thing works. All right, let's take a look at another method. So I'm going to take time stretch back to 100. And now we're going to try something called time remapping. I'm going to zoom back out of here by going Shift /. Now, time remapping is a pretty clever thing, but it's kind of a difficult concept to grasp because you apply keyframes, then move them around, and it's not totally clear what those keyframes represent. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to close down stretch here by right-clicking and saying hide this. I'm going to right-click now on the layer, or I could go up to the layer menu here. I'm going to right-click on the layer and go back to time again. And then go enable time remapping. That adds this property to the layer. It's just a property. It's not an effect. If I open this up again and look at it, you see that it's just this property that resides above transform there. Kind of an anomaly in terms of effects and things like that. Go back there and watch time remap now. When you apply time remap, it adds 2 keyframes, one at the beginning and one at the end. Those keyframes represent the beginning and the end, which may seem obvious, right? But if I take this keyframe here, which represents the beginning of the clip, and take it right here toward the end, nothing at all will happen from here until we get to there. So you kind of getting this now? This little keyframe says this is the beginning of the clip, folks. And so we've now shortened the distance between the beginning and the end such that it's going to play much faster. If we were to play this guy after having RAM previewed it, it would just zip right along because there's much less time between these 2 keyframes. So I'll just let it go for a couple moments here, and then I'll go back and play it. You'll see that from here to here, it's just a freeze frame. And then it gets to the keyframe, and woo, off it goes. Wow, did you see that? Try that again. Watch. Here we go. Nothing, and then fast speed. So we've told this clip that, yeah, you're the first frame in the clip, and we're now moving the first frame somewhere else. That's how that works. I can take it back now, and it'll play normal speed. So what you can do with this, which is kind of cool, is you can mark keyframes at the beginning. Typically, you mark keyframes at important places, then you want to arrange the speeds later. So for example, where this guy just catches it like that, I could put a keyframe there by clicking on this little diamond. And when he releases it, let's say right there, I could put another keyframe. The goal here would be to, let's say, have the toss go fast, and then the hold while it moves around his body goes slowly. So you get a chance to kind of look at the guy for a while he's moving the watermelon from the right side of his body to the left side of the body. So I'm going to do this again here, where it just touches his hand there. Just where it touches it, that's another keyframe. And where he lets it go, that could be another one, for example, right there. And by doing that, we can adjust this later. So we're just telling After Effects, these are points in time inside this clip, and then we're going to remap those points in time in a moment here. I'm going to zoom in on this area in the timeline a bit by pressing the plus key a couple of times. And now I'm going to rearrange them. Let's just see how this works. I want this first frame to come later. So that'd be a freeze frame there, such that the distance between these points is now going to be fast. So he's going to toss this guy, and it's going to go quickly. I can put it even closer. And when it gets this guy, I wanted him to hold it in his hand for a while. So I'm going to make sure that this thing happens fast, he gets it, but then the time between these things is now longer than it was originally. And it gets to the next guy, it's going to take off. It's going to zip right from there to there, go very fast, and settle in that guy's hands. And I'm going to let it settle there and then sit there for a while. So I'm going to spread these keyframes out from this point to that point. So I'm telling it originally they were closer together, now they're farther apart, so it'll take longer. Now it's going to go quickly to the next guy, and he's going to hold it for a while. And then we can have it going down the line like that. I'm going to now RAM preview this. It'll take a second. So I'm going to then bring in the in and the out points here so that we can limit our RAM preview. So I'm going to press the N key to put the end of the work area bar right there. I'm going to drag the work area bar right there, and that will limit the area that's going to be RAM previewed. I'm going to RAM preview it, and then I'm going to come back when it's done, and we'll take a look at this. Here we go. Okay, we got that back, and now just think about this again. It's going to be a fast toss and then a slow move across the body. Fast toss, slow move across the body. So here we go. See how that works? How great is that, right? That's how that process works. And now we can reverse this too if we want to. So right-click on the layer, go to Time, and Time Reverse Layer, and those keyframes will stay there. You're going to get this little red hash mark telling you that you've now reversed the time. I'm going to zoom out of it so you can see where it went. Remember, this stuff was at the beginning of the clip before, now it's at the end. I'm going to take my work area bar to that area, and I'm going to RAM preview this, so stand by while I do that. Okay, now we got it. Let's watch this in reverse. Here we go. He holds it for a while, he flips it fast, There we go. So that's how you can put it in reverse. And notice the little red hash marks telling you that this is a clip that's been reversed. So one more thing you can do when you're dealing with time is that you can add a freeze frame. And after you've done all this work to create all these keyframes, I'm going to right click on this thing now and go up to Time. And we're going to go freeze frame, and oh, all of our work is done. It takes this entire clip, and wherever you've got your current time indicator, it adds a freeze frame for the duration of that clip. Let's say they want to make the clip longer. It's still going to stay just at that one freeze frame. So you can pick some frame someplace and turn it into a freeze frame, a hold frame that can last for as long as you want to drag your clip out there. So that, folks, is how you can stop, stretch, reverse, and remap time.